Hello guys, get ready to strap in. We are doing Midnight Oil A to Z to celebrate the release of Midnight Oil's entire back catalogue onto iTunes, and I'm joined by one of the greatest drummers this country has produced, Rob Hirst. Hello sir, how are you?
Very well, Chit Chat, thanks for inviting me down.
It's very exciting. I can't believe when I looked this up this morning, 30 years since the first album came out. Does it feel that long?
That makes me feel even tighter than I already am.
well, I mean, 30 years ago, his debut album, Midnight Oil, came out, and it changed the landscape of music in Australia forever, because there has never been a band that sounds like your band.
No, well, I think we had an ace card with Pete's voice, because love it or loathe it, you certainly couldn't mistake it.
Yeah, no.
And then when you saw the band live and saw Pete's dance, which is still much commented on, and sort of got the raw power of Jim and Martin's amps and me thrashing away behind and lights going off, smoke, pubs, full of 2,000 people, and lots of sort of mid-20s angst from the band and teenage angst from the audience. Yeah, it was quite a potent mix.
Oh yeah, unbelievable. And it's such an incredible body of work, which we'll be going through over the course of this countdown. As I said, it's A to Z. If you want to get any of this back catalogue, all you do is go to maxtv.com.au and you can actually purchase all the tracks through that. But let's start with A, Armistice Day, off your third album, Place Without a Postcard. To me, this is kind of the album where you start to show your environmentalist side, you start to show your conscience. Would you agree with that?
Well, my thing was always military history, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And that's where songs like Later Forgotten Years came from, and Bedlam Bridge and all this kind of stuff. But Armistice Day, it was it's a pretty bleak kind of song, and it came from a session we were doing with Glenn Johns at his home studio in Sussex. Glenn Johns, famous producer of The Who and The Beatles, Rolling Stones, Joan Armatrading, The Eagles, a few unknown bands, had invited us over to his home studio in Sussex in England. And he actually hadn't inquired about whether we had any songs. So we were writing songs on the floor of a 16th century stables.
Yeah, which is going to have an impact on the writing.
Yeah, which it did, but it was kind of nerve-wracking for the main writers, Jim and myself, because we're writing stuff and Glenn's listening to them for the first time and passing comment. And after all, this is a man that had produced, co-produced Let It Be. And
so you're feeling the pressure, a little bit of pressure.
Had produced one of my favourite all-time albums in Who's Next,
Yep.
Recorded Won't Get Fooled Again. And we were sort of coming up with our little sort of Australian anthems. And he wasn't very impressed.
Wow.
And we sort of said, well, what are we going to do? And then fortunately, Armistice Day and Don't Want to Be the One had been sort of left over from the Head Injuries album and been sitting around, so we brought it out and...
He said, what do you think about it?
Yeah, give that a go. So, yeah.
Well, let's check out the fruits. Here's Armistice Day. I'm Chit Chat, and this is Rob Hirst, drummer with Midnight Oil, and today we are going through Midnight Oil A to Z to celebrate, finally, the release on iTunes of your whole back catalogue. A lot of people have been waiting for this, and of course, if you want to get some of these songs, go to maxtv.com.au and you can buy these songs. Now, we're up to B already. Beds Are Burning, pretty famous track. Tell me about the rhythm of this track. I read a story about it being to do with cars, travelling in the outback.
Well, both Beds Are Burning and The Dead Heart were based on the kind of desert rhythms you get if you're travelling for long distances across the Gun Barrel Highway, way west of Alice Springs.
Wow, you're out there, yeah.
And you're in a troopy, like you're in a Toyota Troop carrier, and the axle starts to move on the corrugations. So in the case of The Dead Heart, it was like this sort of 8 beats on the kick drum.
Wow.
Which was actually, because it was the 80s,
and
provided by a Lynn drum
yeah.
on the actual recording. Yeah, and you'd be in back of this troop carrier and be bounced around, and similarly with Beds Are Burning, there was a kind of beat, a quieter beat, more spaces between the beats, Beds Are Burning, but a very constant one. And up until then, the Midnight Oil rhythm section was pretty frenetic. Lots of gear changes and But what we learnt in the desert was just to slow down and turn down. And
God, that's a valuable lesson to learn in life.
yeah, it was. It took us 10 years to learn it, but it was worth learning.
I'm glad you didn't find it out straight away because I love the frenetic stuff.
The early frenetic stuff. Yeah. Well, and we started writing songs in a kind of calculating way, whereby we rejected anything that wasn't a hook or something that not everyone liked.
Yeah.
Which made it actually a lot harder to write songs because, you know, from your own band experience, to get a quorum in a band is actually really hard.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but the origins of Beds of Burning actually go before we did the Blackfella Whitefella tour with the Warumpi band. It was actually offered up as one of the songs to...
Because I wondered that, because you were out touring with that, and I thought that would have been the impetus.
Yeah, if you look at the Blackfella Whitefella tour DVD, which came out a little while ago, you'll see that we're doing an early version of the song, different lyrics. Yeah. Because I'd written the chorus before we'd gone out, and I'd sort of brought it to the band, playing a simple kind of root note on the piano, and Jim said, "Oh, that's pretty good, we should use that." And then a classic example of collaborative songwriting that only a band can do. I mean, bands, as you know, have many faults, but when bands are good, they can actually...
When they're on, that's it. They're all powerful.
Yeah, you use everybody's talent. So I had the original chorus. Jim came up with the main riff that drives the verse. Pete added the time has come, say fair's fair, you know, the directly political stuff, which sort of gave it the song an urgency and a context. And then later on we added the brass at the end. We added the sort of throw the drum kit down the stairs part in the middle, which is a kind of part, which was actually played on samples on a keyboard.
Yeah.
And then someone said, "Oh, we should start the song off with something that wakes people up." This was a classic Midnight Oil trick. And so Jim said, you know, how about bam, 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 which if you continue goes bam, 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 bam. But we stopped it right there.
Yeah, luckily.
Yeah.
But perfectly.
And then Warren Livesey, strangely our English producer of a very Australian album, which happened more than once for us, also added bits and pieces, and all beautifully recorded in the suburbs of Neutral Bay at Albert's, at the new Albert's studio. But a song very much born of the desert. I filled in all the lyrics out there, travelling around with Charlie McMahon and his beaten up old Toyota. Yeah. With Charlie explaining what this was.
Charlie McMahon.
Yeah. And Charlie explained to this city slicker what was going on over here, and while we were just travelling through endless spinifex and Mallee country with the odd ghost come, and with the McDonald Ranges there and these magnificent blue skies.
That's a great way to write, isn't it? Because the first time you see something is when it's going to have the most impact, and the things you live with are hardest to write about because you don't notice them.
That's right, and we were noticing everything. You know, we were noticing
You're awake.
The state of the appalling state of the communities.
Yeah.
We were noticing the petrol sniffers, you know, the bush zombies, and we were noticing the sly grog getting in and destroying families out there, but we're also noticing this incredible countryside, brilliant stars at night, and a community which was incredibly strong. And out in, say, places like Papunya, Sammy Butcher, the guitar player for the Warumpi band, you know, who's become a leader of the community out there. Of all this incredible music combined with traditional music and top-end music from the late George Warumbu, bringing that down, and combined with a kind of a Western desert reggae, they used to call it, the bands used to play out there. And all being, you know, this sort of intoxicating assault to the senses, all of which poured out on the Diesel and Dust album and propelled the song, Beds of Burning, which was just one of the songs on that album, to be the sort of breakthrough song internationally, which opened up the catalogue of all the material that we'd done before and all the songs that we would write henceforth. Yeah.
Well, incredible backstory telling there. Let's hear the track Beds Are Burning. We're going through Midnight Oil A to Z to celebrate the release of their back catalogue onto iTunes. Finally, Rob Hirst is here. Rob, Blue Sky Mine. We're still in the B's here. Blue Sky Mine from Blue Sky Mining, the album. I was reading it, and you didn't even seem to know about this. It was #1 on the modern rock charts in America.
Was it? Yeah. We were too busy.
I love that.
We were.
Only you would be so humble. Oh, yeah, was it?
No,
#1 America?
I'm serious. I was. We just, by the time the Blue Sky Mining album came out, we were so frazzled in a tour bus somewhere at the back of nowhere that we weren't following charts or the progress of the band or the success of the band in the United States, Canada, throughout Europe and whatever. We just knew that we had to be to all those places tomorrow, all at once. And it was a lucky opportunity to have. I mean, what band could complain about that? But no, we never kept track of where we were. We just realised that suddenly we were invited onto Letterman. We did about 6 or 7 Lettermans in the end.
Wow.
And onto a variety of TV shows throughout Europe, with incomprehensible hosts introducing us and always playing Beds of Burning. Or later on, a bit of The Dead Heart or Blue Sky Mine, which was the kind of follow-up album to Diesel, but inspired by a totally different set of circumstances. Because whereas Diesel and Dust had been so inspired by the travel, the Blackfella Whitefella tour with the Warrumping Band in the desert, and songs like Bull Warrakerna, Dead Heart, Beds Burning had all sort of been that major thrust. Blue Sky Mining was written on the back of a tour bus somewhere, crisscrossing the United States. And by the whole band too. I read on the notes that a lot of the tracks are obviously written by yourself and Pete and Jim. But this is listed as Midnight Oil writing, so I guess that's why, because you're all together in the bus. Yeah, we were together in the bus, but we were in different places in the bus.
Wow, now we're getting to the good stuff,
increasingly, Pete would seem to occupy the back lounge and had a lot of trouble sleeping in those buses.
Oh, because of the height, or just because of sleep?
Yeah. I mean, eventually, I think they tried to sort of knock a hole in the bulkhead of the bunks so that Pete could actually stretch out and have a good night's sleep. But that didn't work, and he retreated to the back of the bus and used to have all his books and papers sort of around him. That was kind of Pete's domain in the end.
You just left him be.
Yeah.
Well, the good songs got written at the front of the bus. I'm telling you, here's Blue Sky Mine. You're watching Midnight Oil A to Z. I am joined by celebrity guest Rob Hirst. That song, Blue Sky Mine, tell me the story behind that, because it was actually about a particular town, wasn't it?
Jim Magini from the Oils got hold of a book by Ben Hills called Blue Murder. And it's the story of the mining of blue asbestos in the town of Wittenoom, Western Australia. What they used to do is the company would recruit a lot of overseas labour and put them on a contract basis. And the contract would last for a couple of years, 2 years. And the dangers of asbestos, which have been known way back to Roman and Greek times, wasn't always explained, if at all, to some of the folks coming in working in the mine, as well as the Aussies were there and Aboriginal people also working there. And as a result, it's opened a rather tragic Pandora's box of litigation, people contracting asbestosis and the more dreaded mesothelioma, which are lung diseases. And the kids, of the families there would just go to school with this dust blowing around the place. And obviously there were folks in the company that knew the dangers but did nothing.
People are kept there because of financial reasons,
yes.
I would say.
Basically, a lot of the folks there had no option. They'd come out on contract basis. I mean, where would they go? They're in the middle of nowhere, you know, and so they were saving money, presumably for their families back home, and so it was almost an impossible situation, quite exploitative. And so Jim handed the book around. We were touring really hard in the United States on the back of the Diesel and Dust album by then. Handed the book around, and each of us in turn read Blue Murder, and then the song started to form. Once again, a great collaboration between the members of the Oils, with the song based originally on an idea of Jim's, and certainly a lyric, and then me coming in with that, if you work all day on the blue sky mine, there'll be food on the table tonight, all that kind of sections. And So putting in the sugar refining company, try to explain in a way who the culprits were.
About. Yeah.
And then Pete coming in and fleshing out the verses with all those lyrics. And then Warren Livesey, our producer. We used Warren Livesey on 3 Midnight Oil albums. And he came in with the original kind of keyboardy riff, suggested Pete do the harmonica intro, and song formed in a weird and a wonderful way, which once again wouldn't
chills
have...
at just hearing the way.
Well, it wouldn't have happened if you were a solo writer or you were just bouncing ideas off the two of us. It was a real band collaboration. And we were kind of desperate in a way because we were feeling that we're feeling as songwriters, Jim and I particularly, a lot of pressure to follow up Diesel and Dust. There was pressure from Sony, from the Black Rock in New York, and pressure from Europe to not only have as big an album as Diesel and Dust, but a bigger one. We were kind of on that roller coaster. For the first time, we were feeling pressure, and we didn't think we had a kind of a lead song.
Yeah.
And so Blue Sky Mining, the song, Blue Sky Mine, the song on the album Blue Sky Mining, was actually the last song that was recorded. And we all kind of breathed a sigh of relief because we thought, well, this is the song we can hang really the whole album and the title and the artwork around.
Wow, it's amazing the pieces that come together at the last minute. Well, let's go back a little bit earlier. Best of Both Worlds. This is from Red Sails in the Sunset.
Yes.
Incredible album, and it must have been a very exciting time for you, I'm guessing.
It was an incredible time because we found ourselves in Tokyo at the very peak of the kind of youth explosion in Japan. The kids had money for the first time. They were breaking away from their parents. They were driving these cool little cars. They were wearing the amazing clothes. And we were kind of swept up in this whole, this culture, which we knew nothing about. Martin knew a bit about it because as a teenager, he'd spent time there when his folks were in Japan. And it was Martin's idea that we go to Japan. But at that time, the band was looking for new challenges, and we just didn't want to continue staying in any country. We wanted to sort of absorb a myriad of influences to push us somewhere else. And so Japan is all over that album, and the recording of it in the JVC Victor studio in Japan is also all over it because it was hysterical. First of all, we had to have a translator to get the album done. So Mr. Shapiro was there for 2 weeks to explain to the engineers, Shigeo and Yoshi, what signals Nick Launay would, to stop and to record and to erase and so the album, and we were experimenting with a whole lot of different instruments, from cheesy keyboards to strings to brass, all thrown together in a way that we just didn't know what would end up. It was the kind of peak of our experimentation. And Nick Launay, who'd produced 10 to 1 with us, was back at the helm, cutting up 2-inch tape, putting up choruses here and verses here, and then so from take 2 we'll take that verse and we'll combine that with take 5 of Best of Both Worlds.
Attaching the tapes together.
Yeah, the old way, before you could do it digitally on Pro Tools or on Logic. You used to do it literally with a pair of scissors and cut them on the kick drum track and then splice it all together. So a lot of those tracks are made up of 3, 4 takes, all glued together in this way, which gives it this strange, dislocated sense, that we didn't get with any other album.
Well, let's hear some of this, the Best of Both Worlds. We're going through Midnight Oil A to Z. It's now on iTunes, a full back catalogue, 30-year career available. And if you want to get some of this music, go to maxtv.com.au and you can download it. You've got to buy it, but it's worth buying because you've got the best of both worlds. I'm with Rob Hirst from Midnight Oil. We're going through the A to Z of their video clips. What an incredible career you've had, and now all available on iTunes. If you go to maxtv.com.au, you can actually download all these tracks. But let's go back really early. Let's go back to, the third album, Place Without a Postcard. Don't Want to Be the One. What an exciting song.
Yeah, I still really like that song. And I really like Silverchair's recent version.
Yeah, because they covered it at the ARIA Awards.
They did, and then they ended up playing it a bit live, and we were chuffed.
Yeah, look, I'm really interested. Do you remember when Pete first walked in? Because you and Jim were sort of jamming, weren't you? And he had a band going, sort of a Led Zeppelin sound, and then Pete turned up and joined the band.
Actually, Pete answered an ad I put in the Sydney Morning Herald for a singer. Yeah. Because up until that time, we were called Farm back then. Up until that time, I was playing the drums and singing most inexpertly behind the kit.
You got a beautiful voice.
Yeah, but try to sing and drum.
Oh,
Thank
man.
you, mate.
Yeah.
But it became obvious that we needed a singer and a front man.
Yeah.
We auditioned. Pete turned up.
Jesus.
He
Didn't
sang,
you get one?
He sang in a he sang in a very unique falsetto.
Yeah, because he was a high singer at first.
Sang very high. So you had the combination of someone very imposing, very tall. Pete had shoulder-length blonde hair at the time.
Yeah.
He turned up in his old Peugeot 404 with all the hamburger wrappers and stuff in the bottom.
Yeah.
And sang Locomotive Breath, Jethro Tull, which we...
But in a falsetto, like I'm trying not to think about this in a comical way, but to me, if Pete walked in, what is he, 6'6" or whatever he is, he walks through the door as a...
Well, we had a couple of people audition, but I mean, Jim and I looked at each other afterwards and said, I'm not sure whether we can sing that well, but no one's ever going to forget this guy.
Yeah.
So Pete was in, and Pete was studying law down there at ANU at the time.
Yeah.
I started organising some early tours for us,
Yeah.
knowing that we wouldn't get any gigs because we had no experience, and having no experience, we didn't get any gigs. You know, it was a classic vicious cycle of young bands. Yeah. So I organised with the lighting guy, Craig, a couple of tours up and down the coast when we could first drive.
Yeah.
So we used to pile all our gear into these dodgy cars, my minivan, a couple of other cars, VW that was blowing smoke, and we would literally put on our own gigs up and down the New South Wales coast in the summer holidays. Wow. So we had enough experience then, so when this would-be promoter in a pink suit and an afro, blonde afro, Jason Wilde rang up, we could say to him, yeah, we're an experienced band.
Done the show.
Name's Farm, we've just changed it to Midnight Oil, and we're ready to play. And so it was Jason that got us our first Sydney gigs and organised our first gig at the Royal Antler, in front of a surfing crowd.
Wow. And within just a few years, you were out everywhere. And let's play this song. I Don't Want to Be the One, from A Place Without a Postcard, classic Australian album. This is Midnight Oil. I'm here with Rob Hirst. We are going through Midnight Oil A to Z to celebrate the final release of all their back catalogue onto iTunes. And if you want to buy any of these tracks you're hearing today, just get on to maxtv.com.au and follow the links and get into this incredible body of work. Now let's talk about the forgotten years from Blue Sky Mining, and we've talked a bit about this album already. I want to know if you feel like you made a difference.
Well, that's very hard to judge, that kind of stuff, you know. I mean, you put this stuff out and it disappears into the ether, and it's very hard as you're squinting through Super Troopers out to audiences every night. You have to know whether they're getting it or they're just sort of getting the kick of the bass drum and the sonic attack of guitars, and it's just a visceral thing rather than sort of getting through. And I mean, we didn't expect anything particularly from our audience, but we did get a lot of mail back from people that were interested in the songs and asked more about them. And in the case of Forgotten Years, that was written about my father and my grandfather, who both were served in the Second World War and the First World War.
You like these war stories, don't you?
Well, yeah, because I sort of felt like that I was the lucky guy that didn't go to Vietnam.
Yeah.
You know, that just missed out by 18 months on the draft, and and almost as a kind of a thank God that I didn't, that I would investigate the story of my father who went to New Guinea to fight the Japanese, and my grandfather, which is a
horrendous war. Well,
they all are, and one thing I learned was if a war, arrives this way, you run that way as fast as you can, Forgotten Years started off as a song. I remember we were getting songs together at Sony Studios in Hargrave Street, Sydney, Sony headquarters, and we had an entirely different chorus. Warren Livesey arrived again from England, said, no, not that chorus, Rob, the original chorus, use that one, it all makes sense. I was always kind of quietly proud of the song, not only because it had a personal context, but with Jim filling in the gaps, providing that great kind of simple riff at the beginning, and a really, really beautiful production by Warren Livesey, and a great vocal by Pete, I must say, who delivered. I mean, when Pete delivered lyrics that he believed in or could relate to, it was never better. Yeah. It was just great. And but I should also say the film clip that we did, whereby we ended up in the town of Verdun in eastern France, at the battlefields. Yeah. And I'd never been to the northern French or southern Belgian battlefields before. My And suddenly you hear stories of the mist rolling in and of the mud, of the congealed mud and the climate and the atmosphere of the place all became very real, you know, because the mist did roll in while we were making the film clip. And the rows and rows and rows of white crosses of young Australian and American men, and of course huge losses by the French. I mean, the French lost an entire generation of young men. There were none, you know. And beautifully captured on film by Claudia Castle and Jane Castle. You know, just beautifully shot.
It's just astounding. Well, I'm desperate to see it now. Let's see The Forgotten Years from Midnight Oil. Howdy, Chit Chat here, and if you've just tuned in, we are going through Midnight Oil A to Z. Rob Hirst is here. He's been telling us some great stories about the recording of these songs and these albums and the history of the band. And while we're celebrating Midnight Oil at the moment is because their whole back catalogue, your whole back catalogue, is now available on iTunes. And if you go to maxtv.com.au, you can actually download this back catalogue. And incredible. And let's go to just a little EP now, Species to Species. You've got Hercules. Tell me about this song.
Well, I think, Chit Chat, that was right in the middle of that time that the French were exploding nuclear weapons in the South Pacific again. And a lot of people were quite distraught about this.
Yeah, and so they should be.
And so we were in a studio. In fact, we were in Paradise Studio in Sydney.
Oh, yeah.
And we were kind of burnt out by doing incredibly long, extravagant albums, and Red Sails in the Sunset comes to mind.
Yeah, and you'd burn a lot of money, massive studios.
We'd stayed in Japan for 3.5 months. They kept on extending the time, and so I think we owed the ANZ Bank in Chatswood or something, a couple of $1 million. So we decided that we would do something really spontaneous, just all of us in the room at the same time, and that we would, as we always used to do, try a new producer. So we came across an interesting character called Francois Kevorkian, whose history up until that time had been as at the time, a very cool dance mixer dude in New York. That's what he'd done. But I think Sony must have slipped him, you know, a copy of, what was he always raving about? Oh, that's right, Power and the Passion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he loved the end of Power and the Passion with the brass and Jim and Martin's power chords, and that's the kind of band that I think that he came over to think that he was going to produce.
And he would have heard all those electronic drum sounds. And
that's right.
Part of it.
That's exactly right, Chita. Except that he found this band that was trying to relive its roots and recreate our first album back in '78, you know. In other words, sort of 5 blokes in a room with amps and guitars trying to capture first takes, which Hercules was one of, with these lyrics about the French testing, you know, sinking South Pacific dreams and all of this stuff, you know. And he...
So you got a French guy in to do it
and he completely lost interest in the project. And it was for the entire maybe 6 days that he was in Australia, never recovered from this debilitating jet lag, dysrhythmia. And so, you know, we would be there bright-eyed and bushy-tailed at 11 a.m, which is pretty good for musicians. Eventually, I'd have to go up to King's Cross to the hotel where Francois was sleeping. So literally kick the door down with Jim and drag him down to Paradise Studios.
And say, we're paying you, buddy. Do something.
Not sure he did get paid, actually. But so anyway, a rather bewildered Francois was put back after 6 or 7 days of recording it. Mixed it, thing came out, and it kind of, you know, restored our faith in the fact that the band could go down this multi-layered, lock up 224-track, you know, machines, spend all our money, go to exotic places like Japan or to England, and then later on to New Orleans to record whatever. But in actual fact, in our own backyard, we could also plug into Marshalls and play Ludwig drums and sing really loud about stuff that we cared about, you know, and that could work as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's hear the beautiful sound of Woolloomooloo and Paradise Studio. Here is Hercules. Chad, and this is Rob. He plays drums for a little band you might know of. They're called Midnight Oil. We're going through the A to Z of Midnight Oil clips today because finally your whole back catalogue has been released onto iTunes. If you want to get onto that, go to maxtv.com.au and you can download all those tracks. But for now, King of the Mountain off, Blue Sky Mining. Tell me about this track, because I'm guessing it's not about the late Peter Brock.
No, it's got nothing to do with fast cars or Mount Panorama.
Yeah.
It's actually about an area of Australia that I've become very fond of in the last couple of decades. And that is kind of an extension of the Great Dividing Range. If you head north from Sydney, you'll eventually come across the Glasshouse Mountains, and then you'll get to another bunch of mountains up near the Woodford site, for those who go to Woodford. And these mountains are called...
North of Brisbane?
North of Brisbane, on the Sunshine Coast, but kind of back in the hinterland.
Yep.
And one of these mountains is called Mount Karura. And actually I think it might be this weekend, every August they have the King of the Mountain race.
Yep.
And I think for a long time it was always won by this long-legged Kiwi called Johnny Walker or something, strangely. But the race goes from the post office of the town of Pomona up the mountain.
It's a running race?
It's a running, scrambling...
Wow, you have to be very fit.
You have to be ridiculously fit and do nothing else in life except run up mountains, I imagine. I wouldn't do it. But it's done in a ridiculously short amount of time, like 21, 22 minutes. And this is kind of a volcanic plug. Yeah. So it's...
And the reality is it's probably harder to come down. A lot of these times they have these mountain races. It's harder then to get
That's
back
right,
down.
and you slide on your ass all the way down. So about 20 years ago, I started spending a lot of time up there around that area. I bought a bit of land. I started planting trees because, for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because I'd always loved having vegetable gardens and interested in plants and whatever, but I'd never have enough space to really grow trees. So finally I had a bit of land, and so I started planting gum trees and some of the local native hardwood trees, bunya pines and all this stuff on this land up there. And from this land I can actually see the King of the Mountain from there.
And have you ever run it though? That's the real question.
No, I never have. No, and I wouldn't. I would never try to run up and down that mountain.
So I won't be calling you King of the Mountain.
No, I've tried to do the City of the Surf a couple of times, and that's completely knackered me for weeks later, so that's the limit of my physical aspirations. But so then the lyrics are about what happens up there. The cane trains used to come through the main town of Nambour. They don't anymore. But the snakes are out in summer, and the weather comes in, and it's called the Sunshine Coast, but it rains really hard up there. And I tried to describe all that in the King of the Mountain song, and kind of got taken me somewhere else.
Well, let's see if you did a good job then. Here's Rob's little song, King of the Mountain. Hi guys, look, all afternoon we are going through Midnight Oil A to Z. Why? Well, because the catalogue, the whole entire Midnight Oil catalogue is now available on iTunes. Get on to maxtv.com.au and you can check it all out. You can buy some of these tracks, and it's a wonderful, wonderful body of work. And I'm excited now because we've hit P, Midnight Oil, P, Power and the Passion. This song, man, great drum sounds and a rap.
Yeah, that's basically what it was.
Yeah.
But it had a groovy riff as well, and had that brass at the end, Okay, so picture this. Where were we? 1982. We'd been in England the previous year, working with Glyn Johns on the Place Without a Postcard album, but that was down in the countryside in Sussex. Now we'd come to town, and we were in Shepherd's Bush in West London, at Townhouse, and we were trying to get that drum sound that Peter Gabriel got on his first solo album after leaving Genesis. And a lot of people were using that at the time. XTC had used it, and so we'd met a very young Nick Launay, who'd already worked with
the
Birthday Party and the Gang of Four and a few other people that we really admired, and he was introduced by Nadia Anderson, who was once a presenter at Triple R in Melbourne. So that was the contact. And Nick agreed to produce us. We did endless rehearsals up at Easy Hire in North London. We were living on about each, about 30 quid a week by this stage, because we'd spent all the touring money that we'd saved up from those endless tours around the pubs and clubs.
You kind of lost your record company and then
we nearly got signed with A&M Records, but A&M hated Place Without a Postcard and asked us to re-record it, so we didn't and went home, and it did pretty well in Australia, but not very well overseas. So went back to London on a kind of make it or break it.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of frustration in the band. Arguments were breaking out, within the band. I remember Jim saying, "I don't think I can stand this much longer. I'm out." There was tension between Nick Launay and Gary, our manager, in the studio. And when I listen to that album now, 10 to 1 hour, all I can hear is this sort of desperate, bloody-minded young bunch of bastards trying to get through that threshold of trying to get to the next level, and also trying to reinvent ourselves. Because we knew we had it in us, and we knew we had the right producer in Nick Launay to do it.
So I'm interested how it was made, because it's such an incredible overall sound.
Well, remember back in the 80s, Chit-Chat, these drum machines were arriving?
Oh, yeah. Sequential circuits.
And drummers were throwing themselves off high buildings, but they didn't need to, because early on we figured, and Nick Launay figured, that if we could combine, say, the Lynn drum track, which drives Power and Passion, and I could play all over the top of it, then we'd have the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. You can go with bad puns if you want.
Pun it as long as it,
You're with me, mate.
You are the pun extraordinary.
I'm the punk of pun. No, anyway.
So, how did the song come about? Okay, originally on a couple of lyrics I had, which were that people wasting away in paradise, etc., which prompted the lyrics, which then Pete filled in, the verses. I had the chorus, Power and Passion, which I worked up with Jim. Yep. We always used to work together on these things initially and then take it to the band, and then it was filled in by Martin, helping out with arrangements, and Pete doing, adding lyrics here and there.
And the rap.
And the rap, like a kind of an Aussie rap.
It sounded cool, and it was well before any other Australian rap sounded anywhere close to cool.
Yeah, it was.
Probably 20 years,
It was.
To be honest.
I mean, so we were, using drum machines, which initially I was sort of terrified of, but Nick Launay sort of sat me down and said, "Look, don't be worried about these drum machines, just play along with it, and in the middle there, instead of having a guitar solo, we'll just let the drum machine keep going, and you will play, you'll just hit everything that you've got."
Literally, you did that.
So I collected the Simmons drums, remember the electronic drums?
Octopad things.
That's right. With some acoustic drums I had, and there was a water. I had the water tank. No, the water tank, that was later. I had a fire extinguisher, and it's like a cathode ray tube, which I threw at the end of the solo. Yeah. So it was the first take. I don't think I could ever have got that take before, but the long and short of it was I was kind of having a nervous breakdown in England at the time. Yeah. I was really unhappy about the fact that we were running out of money and whether this would be the breakthrough album and the tension in the band. And I was trying to run off in between doing takes, I would go for these long runs around West London to try to get myself straight. Came in, did the solo, poured all this angst out on the track, and then, actually had something which was, quite strong.
Unbelievable story. Well, that's exactly what it sounds like. That, now you've explained it, this is the power and the passion. I'm here with Rob Hirst from Midnight Oil because finally the back catalogue is available for the all Midnight Oil songs. If you get on to maxtv.com.au, do the links, iTunes are now selling your whole catalogue. Look, what an incredible career, and you've experimented with so many different sounds, including jungle drums. We're talking jungle drums on Redneck Wonderland.
Is that what we were doing?
Well, this is like, at the time, this is very experimental drums coming out of England. It came past trip-hop and hip-hop. There was these crazy beats, jungle sounds.
Yeah.
And not as in the rhythm of the jungle, more of a dance club sort of jungle sounds.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Because this was like a what they call in pinball, a third ball rampage. You've been together for a long time, then bang, a hit single comes through.
Well, I wish it had been a hit. Redneck Wonderland, the song. Yeah, I mean, I actually had really high hopes for Redneck Wonderland.
I love it.
It was a song almost entirely by Jim.
Yep.
But Warren Livesey, once again, was back on the controls, mixing and producing. And it was his idea to actually bring in that kind of staggered drumming that you hear in the beginning. And once again, sort of play the almighty kit and the guitars to sort of ramp it up. So there was a bit like Power and Passion that we were talking about before, Chit-Chat, where you had, clearly drum machines and sequence and things going, but then you add a crunchy rock band to it. and you get this great sort of tension between sort of, loud pub rock and marshals and cymbals and stuff.
Yeah.
With the control of sequences.
Yeah, and when you hear it though, you instantly want to hear it live. That's what I figure when I hear that track. You go, I want to be in front of big amps, and I want to be yelling.
Yeah. So live we used to run the sequence.
You want to be in front of a Redneck Wonderland when you play it. That's the sort of crowd you want to play it to, because they would go nuts.
Well, it was recorded by Down in Sing Sing.
Who's done Regurgitator and a bunch of sort of indie Oz bands.
It was originally recorded by Magoo and then mixed by Warren and inspired by some graffiti that because every day we'd walk from our hotel over the river, over the Yarra River and towards Sing Sing Studio. And we passed this graffiti every day and we were looking for a title for the album. And a little bit like Blue Sky Mine came up very late on that project. Redneck Wonderland was the last song added to that album as well. And Jim just presented it one day when we were in the studio and said, how about this? I said, this is great. I must admit, I had really high hopes for the song. It kind of sort of went up and disappeared without trace. And, it's kind of the one, I mean, not that we can, I don't mean to, to complain about any aspect of our career because, we had such a fantastic run for 25 years, but I really felt that song was going to sort of nail us back into kind of the spot we had been back in the late 80s because it was released in the later part of the 90s. But it didn't, But I think it really stands up and live, it just used to go off.
Yeah.
Big time.
Well, it's a corker. Let's check it out. Redneck Wonderland from the album, Redneck Wonderland, from Midnight Oil. Chit chat with you. I've got Rob Hirst here because finally, the whole back catalogue of Midnight Oil is available on iTunes. We are celebrating Midnight Oil A to Z all afternoon, and an incredible catalogue of work. And we're at S now, Short Memory. I had to think about that. From 10 to 1. This was really the breakthrough album. Even though it was your fourth album, this is the one that really set you up, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was a tough album to make. But when we made it and we actually heard US forces being played all over the place, you sort of breathed a collective sigh of relief.
Yeah.
Because as much as we had maintained this fiercely independent stance, and we were, we used to ban the record company from the studio and it was always our choice of producer in the studio. When you actually hear a song on high rotation and you realise that you might actually get out of debt at some point, and get to the next stage and pick up the audience that we thought we deserved by then, In other words, move from an inner city band to the suburbs. That was certainly the album to do it.
Yeah.
And we got, US Forces was played time and time again, followed by Power and Passion.
Yeah.
And then radio picked up... Read About It.
Yeah.
And then Short Memory. Yeah.
Which, because I always thought there were like 5 or 6 singles off this album, but really there were only 2 singles released, but radio just loved this album so much they played the other songs. I mean, this doesn't happen now. This is, it takes a really powerful album, and that's what this album was.
Well, I compiled most of the lyrics. Pete filled in the second verse.
Yeah.
But I'd compiled the idea of so there's conquistadors of Mexico, the Zulus and Navajo, sort of all of these historical stuff, as I used to do.
Yeah.
And then Jim had come in with this wonderful riff, which was the chorus riff over the Short Memory chorus, which is, once again, in a weird time. We used to sort of, Midnight Oil used to muck around not only with strange tunings, and Martin and Jim were amazing guitar players and very inventive, and never used to compete with each other, used to complement each other. But we also used to muck around with interesting time signatures. Yeah. Early songs like Profiteers and others were like examples of that. And so it's an interesting time signature as well, going from the 2/4 to the 3/4 in Short Memory.
Wow, 2/4 to 3/4. Wow. We're talking time signatures.
It's actually 9/4, I think.
9/4.
Yeah, something like that, yeah. So
Freak.
And then, sort of putting this together in the Townhouse Studios with Nick Launay and using that technology and emptying it right out once again, because we were pretty crowded at times, made for a really strong song and was sort of the logical successor in a way to Armistice Day and other songs that we'd recorded years before.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, here it is, Short Memory from 10 to 1. Hello guys, I'm here with Rob Hirst from Midnight Oil, celebrating the final release of all the back catalogue of the Midnight Oil albums. Get onto iTunes, put it all out. All you need to do is go through to maxtv.com.au, follow the links and get into the wealth of the catalogue that is Midnight Oil. And let's go right back, not to the very start, but to your second album, Head Injuries. I think this actually might be my favourite song of yours, Stand in Line.
Stand in Line, yeah, which was one of those almost impossible to play bass riffs, which Andrew the Bear, James, played originally, and then of course Peter Gifford when he joined later on, and then Bones Hillman actually had to learn this impossible bass, you know, so we'd made the first album with Keith Walker from Double J, as it was at the time, and then we'd gone in the following year, 1979, to work with an English producer called Les Karski, who jumped ship from an English sort of bluesy punk band called Supercharge and stayed in Australia. And we connected with Les and we fell in love with Les immediately because it's one of the funniest men on earth. When we were recording, he used to do little caricatures of us, you know, me grunting away on the drums and Pete, and he would sort of hand them to us after the songs. And his mission, if you like, was to sort of remove what he referred to as the hippie waffle from our music. Yeah, because the band had been a weird kind of amalgam of sort of surf punk, but also prog. You know, because our heroes were Jethro Tull and Yes and King Crimson and all these people, as much as they were Creedence and, you know, the Who and the Beatles and whatever. So Les's mission was to actually carve out all the hippie waffle and to actually get rid of the fat. And so the songs on Head Injuries are pared down to 3 and 4 minutes. Yeah. You know, and he rehearsed us for weeks before. We weren't used to this. We were used to jamming and sort of getting, okay, well that's fine, go into the studio. And then, so Les taught us about arrangement, song construction, and working with Peter Walker this time, who was the guitar player for a 70s band called Bakery in Trafalgar Studios in Sydney. And once again, over a really short amount of time, like 9 or 10 days, we threw Head Injuries together and it was all mixed and done and dusted. And Stand in Line remained a track that we would play right until Midnight Oil finished, decades later. We'd throw it in. Just because it was, once again, had a weird mix of Pete's fantastic lyrics in the verse with that chorus that I'd written and the kind of shiver down the spine of, you know, of the power chords when Jim and Martin would come in, and it got faster and faster live. And
I can imagine, that
until the bass
line.
The bass riff would sort of originally went but do 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 do. It ended up live so do 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 do. You know, so only sort of prog bass players, you know, Jaco Pastorius could probably play, but no one else could ever play.
No, it could. And the amazing thing about Head Injuries is, of course, that amazing cover with Pete on the front, and that's where the hand came from, the Midnight Oil hand?
Yeah, that's the hand. We were just talking about it before. I think it was shot by Philip Morris. I thought it was shot actually at Paddo Town Hall at a sort of Ban the Bomb or Stop the Drop gig we'd done or something like that. But it might have been the Royal Antler Hotel. Yeah. But it was a perfect cover, you know, matching a cover with the music. Yeah. And it's funny, you know, Chit-Chat, because the young bands now that get into Midnight Oil always name check Head Injuries as the album that they like. Yeah. And I'm not surprised because we were still kind of writing songs, you know, like kids kind of write songs in their garage. But it also had sort of production values and arrangement and stuff.
Well, it had a punk ethic to it, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. And we threw ourselves in. We were playing gigs and then coming back at 2 o'clock in the morning, recording till dawn in Trafalgar after we'd done gigs. Yeah. You know, before the sweat had dried. It was very much of the moment, you know. Great
metaphor. Before the sweat had dried, check it out. Stand in Line from Head Injuries. I'm Chit-Chat. I'm here with Rob Hirst from Midnight Oil. We are going through, you know, A to Z, Midnight Oil A to Z of your catalogue of video clips. But of course now, finally, all your back catalogue of albums are available on iTunes. Just get on to maxtv.com.au and follow the links and you can get in on some of the gold. And it's a 30-year career, really. I mean, well, it's been 30 years since you started. I mean, obviously you haven't made records for a little while. But one of your later tracks is Surf's Up Tonight off Breathe. Talk to me about that.
Well, Breathe was made in... half in Sydney at the old Darling Harbour Studios in Ultimo and half in New Orleans at Dan Lanois' studio. Yeah.
Daniel Lanois, who does U2.
Yeah, and Bob Dylan. A few other unknown singer-songwriters.
God, you got the life. You just make me sick now. God, everything's just perfect.
And it was produced by a guy called Malcolm Byrne, who was kind of a, you probably wouldn't like to be described this way, it's kind of an understudy of Dan Lanois.
Yeah.
And it was recorded around the house at Kingsway. In other words, not really a studio at all, but an old house with ghosts in it, you know, that dated a couple of centuries old, a lot of atmosphere in it, which is why the music that was made, I think, in that old house at Kingsway was all imbued with a certain spirit. And if you hear all of those albums, they all have this atmosphere to them. And the Breathe album that we made there, or at least finished there, certainly it's full of the spirit that the house had, but also New Orleans. And I was just thinking then, as you introduced the song Surf's Up Tonight, it's a bit of a tragic coincidence that New Orleans, which got buffeted and it's just been buffeted again, you know, I mean, the surf was quite up. In fact, went right over the levee in New Orleans, and it's become quite a tragic city, I think. You know, but when we were there, we just swept up in, you know, kind of this hallucinogenic trip of recording all night, because we were recording at summer in New Orleans, incredibly hot and humid.
I've been to New Orleans in summer and it's very hot.
So the only time we could concentrate on what we could do at Kingsway was recording pretty much all through the night, and sending out for beer, for wheat beer, which would come back, and these delicious pizzas. And we basically lived on pizzas and wheat beer and recorded all night. And even now, I can't actually remember the recording sessions very much. But it was also mixed in Kingsway, and then Surf's Up Tonight, along with Underwater and a few other tracks, kind of hark back to Midnight Oil's earlier surfing part, you know, including Surfing with a Spoon from the very first album. You know, that kind of living near the surf and the coastal thing remained a kind of a sub-theme with Midnight Oil the entire time. Not only because we started pretty much at the Royal Antler Hotel back up there in Narrabeen with our earliest gigs, but because, you know, anyone that lives near the coast in Australia inevitably grew up swimming in it, drinking in it, surfing on it, whatever, in water. You know, Pete was a body surfer. You know, I've always been a swimmer. Everyone else threw themselves into the ocean whenever we could.
Okay, well, let's hear the sound of New Orleans, though. Here's Surf's Up Tonight. You're watching Midnight Oil A to Z, celebrating their whole back catalogue now being available on iTunes. Just go to maxtv.com.au. As I said, it's A to Z. We are up to you, US forces. Look, you know, this is off 10 to 1. You guys have been sort of a surf band, a pub band, and here you were attacking, US policy, foreign policy, in a pop song.
Yeah. I mean, the song, like a lot of the Midnight Oil songs, started off as a demo by Jim. Yeah. But the vocal delivered by Pete certainly had an extra potency.
Yeah.
And it's sort of become a cliche now, but one of the reasons I think it got under people's skin is it was actually recorded in the wrong key. Because Pete, I'm not sure where Pete was, but we put the track down in the Townhouse Studios in West London without properly figuring out what the best key was. Yeah. For Pete, so the whole track was laid down.
Because as you said, he would originally sing a lot higher. This is quite a low track.
Yeah, I mean, he started off singing this, as we were talking, chit-chat about, in a high falsetto, but the voice had sort of gradually dropped an octave and then another octave.
And then US is, it's down there.
So it's down there, and but we got the key wrong, and we recorded it with Nick Launay, and we didn't want to re-record it because it was a great take. Yeah. So we had to re-record the bass, the guitars, and also that do-do-da-da-da-da-da-da, which is actually me playing the strings on a grand piano, just like a kind of a percussion part in the grand piano. That had to be re-recorded in the right key as well, and except for the intro, which is in the original key. So the US Forces comes in, and you think, hang on, he shouldn't be singing there, which kind of makes it even more unsettling. Yeah. So it's just one of those happy coincidences.
Well, I want to hear it now. Look, it's been a lot of fun, but let's hear this track, US Forces from Midnight Oil. White Skin, Black Heart, the final in our Midnight Oil countdown from A to Z as we've been through the whole catalogue of your career in video clips, and now it's all available on iTunes. If you get on to maxtv.com.au and follow the links, you can get into this back catalogue and download those songs. Look, I've got to ask the question, such an incredible body of work. Are we going to see any more gigs?
Well, we're going to see more gigs, but it won't be called Midnight Oil.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Come on, Pete. Give it up. Give up this politics thing. You're doing more good in this band. Come on, politics. It'll make your hair fall out. That's a bad gag. But, so you definitely know more Midnight Oil. This is.
No, I think when people think about Midnight Oil, they think about a band that includes Peter Garrett.
Yeah. Oh, it wouldn't be. It is a band.
Yeah.
You're right. That does include it, but it wouldn't be. You couldn't do it without it.
And the rest of us, have continued writing, recording. I've had the ghostwriters, and I've currently got a new band called the Angry Tradesmen coming out, which Martin Rotzi played guitar on the album, and Dom Turner from the Backsliders, who I'm also involved with. Yeah. Jim had his own album out. Bones has gone to Nashville. Martin's been doing a bit of writing and recording around the place. Yeah. But I think as far as Midnight Oil goes, it was the five of us and Gary Morris, our long-time manager. Yeah. That was Midnight Oil. And any of those people taken out, although of course our bass players changed twice from Bear to Peter Gifford to Bones Hillman. I think any subtraction of any of those members would not be Midnight Oil again. It would have to be called something different.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and you should be so proud of this work because it is.
I'm just glad we survived the ride.
Thank you again. Always a pleasure. Rob Hirst.